this is a way for the state of North Dakota to help inform potential job seekers and families about what we have to offer and help connect them with communities and employers that have the type of jobs they're looking for, the quality of life that meets their needs.
Recorded live from the heart of the Bakken, it's the Williston Works Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Williston Works Podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. I'm your host, Anna Nelson, Executive Director of Williston Economic Development. Now, whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're a longtime listener, we're here to bring you conversations with the entrepreneurs, small business owners, and investors shaping Williston's future. Now, we've been focusing a lot on local organizations and businesses, but today we're looking at some programs that where they didn't originate locally, they can help you grow your local talent pool and help our businesses fill workforce gaps and more. So to that end, we're shining the spotlight on workforce development, exploring how innovative programs like Root, which we'll discuss here in a few minutes, are helping local businesses grow and thrive across North Dakota. So joining me today to explain this program and so much more is Katie Ralston Howe. She is the Deputy Commissioner of the North Dakota Department of Commerce and the Director of the Workforce Division. So Katie, congratulations on your new role and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to learn more about you and about the programs that you have there at Commerce. So I know you have a long history in North Dakota and have always had a passion for the state and leadership. So do you want to start by giving our listeners some background information on yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am born and raised here in North Dakota, and growing up, my family and I moved around the state a little bit. My dad was a school administrator, and so we went to communities, particularly on the eastern or central parts of the state. And so growing up, I got to experience a variety of community sizes and schools. And I really developed a deep love for the state of North Dakota, the people here, and the opportunities and potential that we have as a state. Um, as I was starting my career as a young adult, working for a local chamber of commerce, I really realized that my mission was to empower others and to help others develop the skills and tools they needed to achieve success. And right now, I get to live that mission in my role at the North Dakota Department of Commerce. I've been with the agency for almost 6 years, which is wild because time has flown. I'm still having fun. And as you mentioned in the intro, I just took on a new role as the deputy commissioner for our agency. So I'm really excited to dive in a little deeper from an agency standpoint to really help work with all of our team members, not just specifically with the Workforce Development Division, which is where my focus has been for the last 5.5 years. And so within our portfolio, we really have a few main buckets: talent attraction and empowering locally led workforce solutions, skilled workforce training, internship and apprenticeship, and then community based volunteerism through our AmeriCorps program. And so our portfolio has really evolved a lot throughout the last 5.5 years. Our team has grown, and we're serving the state in more ways than we were before. And I think we're making a really big impact. I'm so excited to talk a little bit more about that today. But of course, since this podcast is based in Williston and for the Williston business community, I of course want to mention that I have such close ties with Williston, and the community has such a special place in my heart because for 5 years I competed in the Miss North Dakota organization and had the honor of serving as Miss North Dakota in 2009, 2010. And so spent a lot of time in Williston and really enjoy my annual trip back to the community for the Miss North Dakota competition every year. So want to express my gratitude for the businesses and nonprofit organizations that are supporting the Miss North Dakota organization because it makes a huge impact, not just in the community of Williston, but in the state overall. And most importantly, in the lives of young women who have gotten to experience that competition and serving as a local title holder, as a state title holder. It really makes a big difference for all of us. So have to give a little shout out there.
Yeah, it's always fun. The competition was just a couple of weeks ago, well, about a month ago now. So it's always fun seeing not just Williston come alive, but the state come alive with that competition. So yeah, great that you have those ties. So thank you for loving on our Williston. We love it. So looking back at some of those workforce strategies, and actually this podcast is coming at a really good time because we just had our summer development associate. She just wrote up an article on workforce programs, and she actually mentioned Root. So now we get to dive in a little bit more and learn more about all of those. So and you mentioned you've been in your role with the workforce division for 5.5 years. So in that time, you played a huge role in shaping workforce strategy here in North Dakota. Now, you've helped create and facilitate programs such as Operation Intern, Find the Good Life, Root, all of which we'll touch on today. But before we do, from your perspective, how do workforce development programs support long-term growth for local businesses, especially those that are seeing new developments? Like for us in Williston, we have Williston Square and others um, that are going to need that workforce.
When it comes to workforce, it really is important that we uh, match our investment with the level of importance that we put on workforce development. It's critically important to our growth as a state. And, if we want to support a diversified economy, we have to diversify our workforce strategy. And so we have to maintain investment in every area, meaning we need investment in career and technical education, skilled workforce training, apprenticeship, internships, talent attraction and retention, removing barriers to employment, occupational licensure reform. That list could go on, and it's really important that as a state we have a broad menu of options for employers and communities to utilize as they're working to address their workforce needs. And the list that I just mentioned doesn't even begin to touch on housing, childcare, mental and behavioral health, transportation. I mean, it's a very complex issue, and workforce really does touch everything. And so when I think about economic development as the vehicle for helping our state achieve economic success and strong economy, workforce development is the fuel. We need investment in both of those areas to ensure that we're able to get where we want to go. So, when it comes to planning and helping local businesses, we really do have a big menu of options. We recently did a statewide workforce ecosystem study that was just released a couple weeks ago. We're really pleased with the results and the recommendations that have come from it. But throughout that process, we found that the state of North Dakota has more than 80 workforce programs, which
Wow.
is a huge menu of options. But here's the catch. Think about when you go to a restaurant and they have a really big menu. If you're like me, you get a little overwhelmed and you don't know where to start and you try to second guess yourself. And so you really rely on the server to provide recommendations and some direction. And so we do have tremendous employees throughout the state of North Dakota who are able to help point individuals and businesses in the right direction to help them figure out what makes the most sense for their business. I would say if businesses are like me and you get a little overwhelmed, the Department of Commerce, Job Service North Dakota are great places to start and will get you pointed in the right direction. But we've got opportunities and programs to support um, employee recruitment, to support skilled workforce training, not just from a training provider standpoint, but we have a lot of businesses that are saying, you know what, just send us the people, we'll train them ourselves. That training requires a level of investment from the employer. So we do have a program called the Technical Skills Training Grant that's based in Commerce, where we're able to provide a dollar for dollar match for some of those training programs, depending on the skill sets that they're needing to train on, could be entry level safety training, but we also want to see advancement within an organization. So we want to see that the training that we're supporting is going to help employees uh, develop, a higher level of work within their organization, or could open up entry level positions. And so we want to see that there's that upward mobility being supported. But we've got those options available for employers across industry. We align a lot of what we do with the state's in-demand occupations list, which is reviewed and updated by the Workforce Development Council every year. I think we've got 150 jobs on it for the 2025-26 program year, so there are a lot of options. We really want to say yes as much as we can in helping employers participate in the programs that are going to make the biggest difference for their companies.
I've had the privilege of knowing you and working with the department and your division through my work at the chamber and now here. So it's exciting to like get to share even more of what you do with more people. Because you're right, like people just don't know where to start sometimes. So love sharing this information. And then there's also, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was also a dashboard that was recently created to kind of help everybody kind of find what they're looking for all in one place, right?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for bringing this up. I can't believe I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that. We being commerce and other state agencies that are tied into the state's workforce ecosystem have always worked together. I mean, we've got open lines of communication. We've been collaborating, and you know, every legislative session, legislators and committees are hearing all about workforce. I mean, so many different agencies are talking about workforce development, and they're going, okay, you're doing workforce. Like, who's doing what? Is there duplication? How do we know where to find this information? And for quite a few years, we just had like a Word document or PDF with everything listed, which is not super efficient. It also wasn't publicly available on a website. And so team members across state agencies really hit the pavement this last biennium to network with one another to make sure that we were circulating, getting a really good, clear picture of all of the programs and services that are available. Now, as a result of all of that, we do have on the Commerce website, if you go workforce.nd.gov, you will be able to access this tremendous dashboard that allows you to filter based on your needs. So, if you're an employer, if you're a job seeker or a worker looking for different resources, I think we even have some of the different scholarships that are available listed there. So if you're a student interested in scholarships, we have some of those listed as well so that you're able to see what makes the most sense and really just kind of discover what's available. And so I'm really proud of that resource. It's being maintained by staff within commerce and other agencies to make sure, especially now as we're starting a new biennium, as of yesterday, we want to make sure that we're updating based on all of the latest programs and services that received funding or didn't receive funding this last legislative session so that it's updated for businesses as they're starting to plan moving forward. And actually, and if it's okay, you mentioned a couple of other programs in the last question that I really want to highlight before I get too far down the road as I'm thinking about the menu of options that are available for employers and their long term planning. Um, First is Operation Intern. This is one of our longest standing programs within the Department of Commerce Workforce Development Division. It was created in 2007, and this is a program that helps provide internship opportunities for students and employers. The target market for this program are employers. So if you are in one of our state's targeted industries, or if you're providing job opportunities that are on the in demand occupations list, um, we invite you to apply for this grant program because it provides up to $5,000 in a dollar for dollar match to the employer to then pass along to the employee. It could be wage match, It could also go toward, if there are any kind of equipment or tool expenses that the employer is helping to cover for the intern, it can help assist with that as well. It's a tremendous program. It's when we open up the Operation Intern application window, it's kind of like Black Friday in the old days, when we're all like standing outside of our favorite store rushing to get in. That's what happens with Operation Intern. People are putting February 1st on their calendar a year in advance. They know that that's the day to apply for Operation Intern. And I'm really excited to share that we got increased investment in that program this year. So we have $3 million for interns to be able to utilize, which is a great training tool. It's also a really good retention tool. So employers are able to vet an individual who could potentially be a long-term employee for their company. Interns are able to say, okay, is this an employer that I'm interested in? Is this a job I'm interested in? It's really important for students at all levels to have an opportunity to kind of shop around and make sure that they're making an informed decision about the type of work they want to do. And Operation Intern can help with that. So now what was really fun for us is we were able to go back onto our waiting list and allow some extra businesses into the program this year, which was a lot of fun for us. We still have a waiting list though. It's a really popular program and we're trying to figure out ways we can make it possible for more businesses to apply. So right now, if businesses are interested, I would encourage you to join the waiting list because if after a certain amount of time a business has not utilized their funding, it gets pulled back and then we are able to award it to a new company. So if you're not participating yet and are interested, get on the waiting list because you just might have that opportunity later this year or early next. The other program I want to highlight is Find the Good Life. This is a talent attraction initiative that we're really proud of. It's taking a while to build, but it also takes a while to make a move. And so this is a way for the state of North Dakota to help inform potential job seekers and families about what we have to offer and help connect them with communities and employers that have the type of jobs they're looking for, the quality of life that meets their needs and help them make their move to North Dakota. And so I know that our conversation is really kind of in that vein of talent attraction. And so I'll be sure to talk a little bit more about that throughout the rest of our conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for touching on those. The Operation Intern I've heard is very competitive. So I mean, A, that's incredible that so many businesses are excited about it. But B, that's also incredible that that was recognized and therefore you got a little bit of additional resources to be able to share. So that's very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And then, Find the Good Life, I back when it started, was a community champion for Williston and have been able to continue that. So it's been really neat to see the individuals who are interested, even if they don't end up making the move, they're looking at us and maybe they'll come back, in several years and be like, I remember. So it's great to be able to see you and your department, your staff being able to share the stories of North Dakota, and then all of us champions be able to share the stories of our communities. So that's been a really neat program to be a part of.
Actually, Anna, on that, I do want to encourage you and the businesses that they've engaged with to be patient because we've actually had a number of examples of individuals who came to the state, interviewed with employers, looked around the community a year ago who are still in the process. They're still going through rounds of interviews. There are examples of individuals who have had multiple final round interviews with different employers, didn't get the job, and they're still committed. They
Good.
still want to come to North Dakota. And so there are a lot of stars that have to align in order for someone to make a cross country move. And so um, for those that you're working with, stick with it because if not now, it really could happen in the future. And you are demonstrating such a great impression for those individuals and their families and helping to reinforce why Williston is a really great place for them to consider as their next place to live and work.
Yeah, it's been really rewarding, and then, yeah, to see who they're talking to and, to see the employers that are engaged too. It's neat to see, and you're right, like, it takes time. But what I'm really excited about too is this next program that we're gonna talk about, I feel like can kind of link with, I mean, all of it, but especially that program. So, it's the Relocation Opportunity for Outstanding Talent, or ROOT, and that is a new program just launched in March of this year. So, can you talk about how that program came to be and what it is and how it supports both our employers and employees?
Yes. So man, this was a long time coming. Um, the Root program was one that we talked about just from a conceptual level during the last legislative session in 2023, because although Find the Good Life up to that point had really just been a pilot, and we had launched it about 6 months before the that legislative session, and we really did it to see if it was a model that could potentially work. We were getting a lot of questions from job seekers about relocation incentives or support, because desire to move to North Dakota was and continues to be quite high. The financial ability to do so is more limited. In fact, there was a recent Forbes article that stated in order for, or excuse me, the average cost of a cross country move for an individual mover was about $4,600. And that could climb up to $15,000 depending on family size and the distance they're moving. And those numbers actually are lower than what we've heard from a number of Find the Good Life movers. Some of
Interesting.
them have cited paying more than $20,000 in relocation costs. That is not something that a lot of people have as, discretionary spending in their budget. And so it does take planning. It takes financial ability to make a big move like this. And so, um, a couple of years ago, we started talking about what it could look like for us to provide this kind of support. We do see some states, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, there were some states that were using some of the federal funding that they got, or even private funding. In the case of Arkansas, for example, using some dollars to incentivize particularly remote workers to move to their communities. Well, we need to fill jobs. Not that, of course, remote workers are welcome to come to North Dakota, but from a workforce strategy, we're really focused on those that can fill the jobs that we have available. We also, because of the limited success that we saw with those programs around the country, people were coming. They weren't staying. We want people to stay. If we're going to financially invest, we want to make sure that there's a higher rate of success. So the way that we are able to ensure that is by making this an incentive for the employer too. We have been hearing, we know that there are a lot of employers that, as they're hiring nationally or even internationally, they are working to offset the cost for a new hire to move to North Dakota. And that's a big investment from the employer. And if we can help, sweeten the deal for a job seeker who's looking at North Dakota, it's a big decision to make a cross country move, especially if they're bringing their family. We wanted to make sure that the incentive was one that was going to help draw someone here and make a meaningful impact for them, to actually really be an incentive. And so the Root program took a little while to vet. There's a lot to kind of figure out in terms of the framework and the criteria, even considering, border states. How does that work? I used to live on the eastern side of the state. So do we incentivize someone from Moorhead to move to West Fargo? No, that doesn't make sense for us. And so we built in some caveats. We're really pleased with it. We had this vetted by a variety of different leaders within state government and Workforce Development Council to help advise on this. And so right now, we have a program that is providing a dollar for dollar match for employers who are offering a relocation incentive, could be a hiring bonus, could go toward temporary housing expenses or getting your moving van from point A to point B. That can be quite expensive. And so it can be utilized in a variety of different ways, but the incentive goes to the employer and then is passed on to the employee. And so a lot of employers, when they're offering this type of incentive, will require some sort of contract with the employee saying that they'll live and work in the state for X number of years. And so we certainly encourage that. There's a little skin in the game for everybody, but we're really pleased with this. We've had tremendous response. We have more than $300,000 that have been applied for up to this point, impacting more than 80 workers. So companies are really latching onto it. Many of them are applying for the maximum dollar amount. It's up to $5,000 that a company can apply for, which means they're also putting in 5,000. And if I'm a job seeker looking to make a cross-country move, $10,000 does make a pretty big difference.
Yeah, that would move the needle, I would think, on a lot of decisions. It's exciting to see that because I mean that was something, in being a champion, that's something that I had gotten asked so many times, like what companies offer, the bonuses, the stipends, the any kind of help with relocation. And so just to kind of have this central framework that these companies can tap into, I think just makes a huge difference for those companies to be able to take that next step and be like, okay, we can do this, we can help this employee come here and just it's a win-win.
And we're excited. We're excited to see what comes throughout this biennium with Root.
That's exciting. We've been sharing it as much as we can. So I'm excited to be able to share your explanation of it to get people even more excited. Switching gears a little bit here. So with CTE centers, you kind of mentioned, that investment is huge for workforce development. So with those centers growing across the state, and for anybody who doesn't know what that acronym is, it's Career and Technical Education. Um, so with those programs, there seems to be a renewed emphasis on work-based learning, including interns and apprenticeships. So you touched on Operation Intern, but then there's also there's an apprenticeship program as well through Commerce. Is that right?
I would say our work in apprenticeship is less formal than a program. We have some subject matter expertise on our team, and we previously had administered a grant from the US Department of Labor to help advance apprenticeship in North Dakota. And right now, we as state agencies are working together to figure out how we can better support businesses that are wanting to develop an apprenticeship program and how we can help get more students and job seekers into apprenticeship pathways. And so we've actually been working together with a number of agencies to develop a framework for how the state can support this. During the legislative session, there were a couple of bills that we were excited about. One of them would have created an apprenticeship office in the state that was designed to help support the US Department of Labor's executive director for apprenticeship, who was based in North Dakota. And um, unfortunately, that bill didn't pass. That was exciting because it would have helped us build that foundation. But what we've recognized is that we don't necessarily need a piece of legislation at this point for us to have those conversations to develop a plan of action. Currently, we don't have a state director for North Dakota. I guess I should say that's based in North Dakota right now. That position is vacant. And so we're actually sharing with South Dakota. And so their state director has a really big territory to cover. So we are trying to figure out, like, how do we best support him? I would say for businesses that are interested in registered apprenticeship, please contact the Department of Commerce, Career and Technical Education, Job Service. We can all help answer questions and at least get a business started on the process of building an apprenticeship program. And then, of course, can get them connected with the South Dakota director, whom we've already engaged with, just to, you know, say hey and let them know that we're here to help. But registered apprenticeship is such a tremendous opportunity for workforce training and attraction and retention because individuals who are participating in an apprenticeship are developing a working relationship with an employer who is investing in them, who is giving them the on the job training that they need to prepare for a job. They also have some related technical instruction, which, oftentimes will happen with one of our community colleges. And so there's a really great relationship between education and employers in helping get a job seeker ready for the workforce. Typically, we also see, I think it's more than 70% of apprentices continue working with the company that brought them on to do their apprenticeship. So, tremendous retention tool for those employers. And one thing I want to note is that I think a lot of people think that registered apprenticeship is really limited to skilled trades, HVAC, electrician, plumber. Guess what? You can do an apprentice. I think there are more than like 700 apprenticeable occupations. In North Dakota, we have a teacher apprenticeship. We have built the very first principal apprenticeship in the nation. Huge win for the Department of Public Instruction. They worked very closely with the US Department of Labor on creating that program. You can do an apprenticeship in nursing, in HR. I mean, the list goes on and on. It is across industry. And so, we included some questions about apprenticeship in the statewide employer survey that we did earlier this year under our workforce ecosystem project. And a lot of companies said, I don't think apprenticeship is really for me. Well, when we looked at the industries that those companies represented, I think it's a lack of awareness, not a statement that they don't see the opportunity. I just don't think they realize yet that there are apprenticeship programs aligned with the jobs that they have within their business or within their industry. So we have an opportunity to educate. And one of the things that we're working on is figuring out what a communication strategy looks like to help employers, students, educators, parents learn about the opportunity with registered apprenticeship.
Yeah, I love that you touched on that it goes beyond those skilled trades. Because I was at a conference, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and there was some data that was being presented. And one of the data points was that I think it was like 90% of CEOs polled wanted to do apprenticeships within their companies. And that's when it started to dawn on me like, oh, yeah, like this could be so much larger than we originally think of. So, love that you touched on that piece.
This could be really important moving forward, just depending on what happens at the federal level. Because in President Trump's proposal for the federal workforce system requires a big change in how states receive funding. His proposal specific to workforce is called the Make America Skilled Again Act. And it would require that, I mean, as drafted right now, a lot of things could change. But right now, as it stands, at least 10% of a state's federal workforce dollars would be required to go to registered apprenticeships. So it is really important that we as a state figure out how we can support and advance apprenticeship, especially if there's a federal requirement attached to it. And this is all aligned with the federal administration's stance that we need to be focused on skilled workforce development because that is more in line with the majority of jobs that are available. So nationally and in North Dakota, about half of the jobs that are available don't require a four-year college degree. And so there are different pathways that we can help individuals pursue to train for the jobs that we have, not just in North Dakota, but throughout the United States.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see too how that ties in with, things like our train and D facilities across the states. And it's been really neat to see here too with our high school, with our CTE program. We've really leaned into the choice ready framework from the Department of Public Instruction. So then with that, or I shouldn't say we, but the school district has held these signing ceremonies for the graduating seniors that are going directly into jobs. And so they have this ceremony with the employers, and they kind of talk about, or they're going to get additional training as long as they're working as well. So it's really been neat to see all of that kind of come together for that skills training for filling those workforce needs. Um, so to see how that will progress as some of these other programs and things are built out, that's going to be really exciting to see.
Yes, very cool, and such a fun way to celebrate those students, and the decisions that they're making to apply their education and jump into the workforce right away.
So then with some of these programs that you're talking about, I feel like some of them can work together. So if you do, the something with the operation intern or something with an apprentice, can you also then apply for the technical skills training grant to help advance that intern or that apprentice? Does that work within commerce?
Mm,
Or is it
potentially.
kind of one or the other?
Um, gosh, it depends on how employers are trying to weave them together. It could work depending on the angle that they're taking. Typically, with the technical skills training grant, we are um, focused on building a training program that is for multiple employees, and so we are considering now including apprenticeship in that. In the past, we haven't, but that is something that we're looking at adding for the new biennium. So if a company was wanting to build a registered apprenticeship program, there is the possibility that they might be able to use the technical skills training grant to help offset some of that startup cost. And so to that one, I would say stay tuned because we're having those discussions right now to see if that's in alignment with what's in Century Code and intent for this program. Operation Intern can be used for apprenticeship. I forgot to mention that before, but a company could use that funding certainly for interns. But if they have a registered apprenticeship program and want to help offset the cost for apprentices, they can use Operation Intern dollars. It's still dollar for dollar match. It's still up to $5,000 and can have up to five either apprentices, interns, or a combination of the two.
Very good to know. Thank you for that little tidbit.
Yeah, well, what a great opportunity because I forgot to mention it before. So there we go.
It's all coming back around. So, what other trends are you seeing in the workforce landscape across North Dakota, and how are those trends influencing how the state supports business and that talent development?
So one of the trends that we're seeing is growth. And some folks might be surprised to hear that, but when we look at our labor market information and combine that with some of the anecdotal conversations that we've had with employers across industry, we're seeing that reflected. And so I want to take you back a little bit. In 2020 and 2021, our workforce participation dropped due to economic shifts related to the pandemic and changes in our oil and gas industry, causing our total employment to fall to 395,000. Now, according to the 2024 annual report that was released by Job Service a month or two ago, our total average employment last year, so 2024, was 424,300 workers. It's really important to keep in mind that a 1% increase in our workforce is about 4,000 workers. So that increase of about 30,000 workers over the last 4 years is tremendous. That's very impressive growth. Even though not every employer is feeling that, but we're seeing that growth reflected in our population. North Dakota ranks number one in net migration. That's huge. People want to come to North Dakota. They want to stay in North Dakota. They want to come back to our state. And so, you know, we've got a lot of momentum right now. We are hearing from a number of employers that talent pools are becoming stronger. They're filling their vacancies faster, and some have even said they're fully staffed. And it's not just the small businesses that we're hearing that from. I mean, we've heard that from some of our larger employers that are saying, we're not hiring right now. You know, I heard from a construction company a year ago that said, I don't know if we need our H1B or excuse me, H2B workers. I don't know if we're going to sign up for that again because we've got everyone we need. That's huge.
Mhm.
So we're on the right track. And here's what this means for the state. It means we need to keep investing in what's working. Every um, piece of the workforce system, the different areas that I rattled off at the beginning of our conversation, those are all cogs in a machine. They all have to be working well in order for the system collectively to be effective in addressing our state's workforce needs. And so we really do need to double down on talent attraction, which I will never get off the soapbox. It takes time. That is a long term strategy. It's a long term strategy in a similar way as education, but it's worth the investment every time. If we can keep students in North Dakota to pursue the opportunities we have here, that is worth the investment. If we can attract workers and their families from around the country or around the world to come to North Dakota, that's worth the investment because all of those workers, all of those citizens are investing in our economy. They're shopping at our stores downtown. They're participating in community events. They're fueling our economy and supporting our growth. And so it's worth the investment. We have to train our workers so that we're ready for jobs of the future, which are coming at us pretty quickly in this world of AI. We have to invest in that. We also have to support those that have fallen on hard times. Sometimes, if someone becomes unemployed, we want to make sure that they're getting the skills they need so that they can get back to work as quickly as possible. We've really got to meet people where they're at in a variety of ways, and so our workforce strategy is comprehensive, and we have to have our foot on the gas in every single area because as soon as we take our foot off the gas in one area, we put pressure on every other part of our workforce system to address the need that they're not necessarily prepared or equipped to address. So, sorry, I get really kind of impassioned about this because um, it's the space that I live and work in, and I love it, and I see so clearly the potential for our state, and I'm really excited and energized about the progress that we've seen because you don't achieve 30,000 of an increase of 30,000 workers over the last 4 years without investment in all of these areas. So we're on the right track. We've made strategic investments and in North Dakota, I think that we have been given the space to be innovative and we've taken some calculated risks. We are doing some things that a lot of states aren't doing. And I know that because those states are calling us saying, "Hey, can you tell me about Find the Good Life?" And pretty soon they've structured a program that looks a lot like what we're doing. Or they're saying, "Okay, tell me more about this regional workforce impact program. How does that work? What are you doing? How much money did you put into that?" And then they're developing a similar program. So we're seeing what North Dakota is doing replicated in a variety of areas. The biggest one I want to point out is our Global Talent Office, which was designed specifically as a workforce solution, which is very different than about 20 other states who have similar offices. And so we now, in the span of 2 years, went from being the student saying, "Hey, we're totally new here, tell us what to do," to now being the teacher. States are coming to us saying, "Okay, how did you do that? What should we be doing?" And so we're writing the playbook, and I'm really, really proud of the work that we're doing there because it's been really cool to see the impact that that office has had on our workforce and on the communities that have benefited to date.
Yeah, I've talked quite a bit with that office, and yeah, what they're doing, and also the connection that they have at the federal level. At least I've heard is just you don't see that in other states. They don't work as closely as we are able to do now through that office. So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, innovation is the name of the game. And I mean, I think North Dakota, in so many realms, is leading the way. And so, this is just one more way that we are leading the way. And, I think that that goes hand in hand then with your passion that you talked about. Like, you are leading this division with passion, with ideas, with the potential in mind. And I mean, that's showing.
Thank you. We have a great team, and I'm really honored that I get to represent the work that our whole team does, because just like all those cogs in the machine that I talk about for our workforce system, every single person on our team and the work they do makes a big difference. And so my job is the easy part. I just get to brag about it.
That is a fun part of it too, right?
Yeah.
So, Katie, I know we're running short on time here. So I just want to throw it out to you. Are there new programs and ideas after this legislative session? Do you have advice for our businesses? What are your final words here before we wrap up?
Well, first, thank you so much for this opportunity, Anna. I love talking about the work that we do, and as we look ahead to the new biennium, um, big things to keep on the radar. First, we are working closely with Governor Armstrong's office and almost a dozen state agencies to figure out how we can unify and align our workforce system. We're working on developing some shared goals and measures of success so that we can really track as a whole ecosystem where we're seeing progress, and really increase transparency around how we are working to address the state's workforce needs. I'm super excited about that work. So keep an eye on that. As far as employers go, we've got our program offerings are a lot, a lot of the same, just due to the level of investment that we got from the legislature this year. We're maintaining a lot of our programs. We're offering some new things though too. So under our talent attraction lens, of course, we have Root. I encourage employers to check that out. But to maximize your success with the Root program, you should also look at the Find the Good Life website and enter the candidate marketplace as an employer. The candidate marketplace will help local employers connect with a national pool of job seekers that are truly interested in North Dakota. I would also encourage those employers to really consider talent from all across the nation. Some employers get a little leery when they see an out of state address and they're like, "Oh, is this person serious?" They are. Especially if you're getting connected to them through Find the Good Life, they are serious. And we actually reach out to the job seekers that say they're interested in talking to a community champion. We reach out to say, "Hey, are you really?" And when they say yes, we're off to the races. So take that very seriously and utilize it. It is free to utilize that candidate marketplace. The other thing under talent attraction is, so here's your hot tip. We are building out an RFP that we're hoping to put out later probably this fall, to help communities that are wanting to facilitate a fly-in tour for job seekers that they get connected with through Find the Good Life. And if they have other tools too that they're using to attract a national talent pool, we might also be able to look at that. But we've seen that model be really successful in other parts of the country and in North Dakota. And so we're looking forward to replicating that, to help communities bring in some job seekers that are the most likely to actually relocate. We do a lot of vetting actually on our side to make sure that we're bringing in the strongest candidates, and communities get to roll out the red carpet, line up some interviews, show them the quality of life that exists in Williston, for example. So we're really excited about that program. So be on the lookout for that. That's probably more for you, Anna, later this year.
I'm listening. I'm ready. This is exciting. Oh, that's great. And just a funny personal note on the being wary about applications from outside of the state. I've done that as we've been hiring, like, are they serious? But jokes on me because we are hiring someone, or we did hire someone. They're gonna start in a couple of weeks. So listeners, you get to meet him soon.
That's awesome.
But he's coming from New Jersey. And so we're really excited that we are getting someone from out of state with that out of state perspective. But he was so excited. He and his family were really excited about coming to Williston, about the quality of life that was here, and coming to North Dakota. So yeah, it's worth it. Explore those opportunities as they come to you, and you never know the kind of opportunity that you could be presenting to someone, and therefore that you could be taking yourself as the employer. So that's exciting.
That's awesome. Congratulations on your new hire. I hope to meet them after they get settled.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're excited about that. So, yeah, again, thank you, Katie, just for everything that you do for our state and for our workforce, and for taking some time today to share with our listeners. Um, Also, I know you mentioned the Regional Workforce Impact Program, or RWIP. Um, do you know, just for anybody listening, when that program will be opening back up for applications?
All right, so I don't have an exact date yet. We're still drafting the guidelines, and we'll need to get it approved by a few different areas in the state before we can launch it. But we are targeting later this summer, so hoping for August.
Okay, perfect. Well, whenever we get that information, we'll send it out on our Wilson Wire, so we can reach as many people as possible. So thank you again for all you do, for coming on today, and best of luck as all of these programs are rolled out.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And thank you to all of our listeners for listening to today's episode of the Williston Works Podcast, brought to you by the City of Williston. Now, please like and subscribe for more interviews and content. And in the meantime, you can learn more about Williston Economic Development by visiting willistondevelopment.com. We'll see you next time on the Williston Works Podcast.